It's been called the Valentine's Day killing. Four shots shatter the silence of the night in Silverwood's country estate. 2 lives changed forever. A nation shaken to its core. For a world in disbelief, one question. Did Oscar Pistorius murder his girlfriend Reeva Steenkamp, or was it a tragic case of mistaken identity? When Oscar Pistorius comes to trial in Pretoria in March 2014, his fate could be determined not by people's words, not by statements from him, from lawyers, or from witnesses. Oscar's fate could be determined by the one witness which can never lie, a silent witness, but whose eloquence could convict or acquit a man on trial for his future. Hollywood. Forensic investigation is key to top crime shows, and filmmakers must get the science absolutely right. The Oscar story has all the elements of a Hollywood drama, with forensics at its heart. They'll be central to a major new project called Oscar, Fall of a Titan.
There are themes involving character, self-doubt, involving ego.
I keep going back to Reeva. I really think that she's an interesting character.
He had power, he had influence, he had wealth, he had popularity, he had a beautiful girlfriend, he had it all. And then, in a few seconds, he lost it all.
To get the forensics right, these writers will work with specialist crime scene investigators who do the real job in California. Forensic specialists Walter Saval and Kim Galuzian work on some of Hollywood's landmark crime shows. They know it's critical to balance drama with reality.
It's an overall CSI effect, the expediency with which you're able to conduct the investigation and follow through to the ultimate capture or apprehension of the suspect.
I worked on the TV show Dexter. My responsibilities were to be available to the writers to ask me any questions that they had related to crime scene matters. If the director would like me to be on set, I would go on set and advise for the accuracy of the crime scene, the types of methods that were being used to process the crime scene.
Physical evidence is at the heart of the Oscar investigation. It's a textbook scenario for forensic specialists like Kim. How important is forensics in the Oscar Pistorius investigation?
I think the key points of forensics for this investigation is going to be ballistics, the trajectory at the time of the crime, and also the blood spatter. Was interpretation done? There were numerous cell phones at the scene, so they could actually retrieve the data from that. Was Reeva talking to an ex-boyfriend? Perhaps he had an ex-girlfriend that was contacting them. He has admitted to shooting the victim, Reeva. Now, whether it was self-defense or was it committed during the heat of passion? That is what forensics will be very important to tell.
A scientific analysis of the physical evidence could reveal what actually happened in Oscar's home on Valentine's Day. To understand why it might have happened, we could be helped by the creative imagination of dramatists. The Hollywood Hills are a favorite haunt of scriptwriters. We joined Stan Berkowitz and Paul Diamond as they explored how science and art could combine to reveal the truth about Oscar. How important are the forensics in writing this drama script?
I mean, they'll prove one way or the other, we hope, whether Oscar's telling the truth or whether he's lying. But there are, of course, problems with forensics as well. I want to hear about the shots through the door like everybody else wants to hear about.
I want to know why the cricket bat had blood on it. It was only used to smash in the top part of the toilet door.
Yeah.
I want to know, obviously, What are the angles of the slugs going through the toilet door?
I'm curious about the handicap. Was it really a handicap? You know, the stories you hear are that he pretty much got through it and never really felt emotionally traumatized by it.
Yes.
But is that true?
To answer questions such as these, forensic investigation depends on precision. Often, crime scenes are disturbed by first responders, like paramedics or police. In Oscar's house, Reeva had already been moved from the bathroom where the killing took place. So, the scene of the shooting should have remained undisturbed.
Reeva was downstairs, so there shouldn't have been any rushing to that area. It should have been very well documented, you know, through crime scene photographs, step by step, and to make sure that no evidence was unintentionally destroyed.
00099.
Walter Saval is often the first investigating officer on the scene of a crime. But when he arrives, forensics is not his initial concern.
Well, when you first arrive at a crime scene, it's not about forensic evidence. It's about where's the bad guy.
There is concern that the forensic evidence at the scene might have been contaminated.
Certainly some of the forensics would be contaminated, particularly by those first responders who treated Reeva. But I'm sure that some of the forensics is still usable, still will either point towards Oscar or away from Oscar.
How the crime scene was handled by the first responders who arrived at Oscar's home is also a key theme for the dramatists.
There's another outstanding personality that just has so much to do with this case. The policeman who investigated it, Hilton Botha, who clearly was starstruck. The chain of evidence was lost on things. People misplaced urine samples. There's a bullet unaccounted for. He'd been around Oscar in the past. He knew instantly it was Oscar's house when he got the phone call in the middle of the night. And this guy blew the investigation completely. Absolutely devastated it. I don't know how the prosecution's going to get past him. Sure. We don't even know what their attitude was when they came in the house. Did they think that this was a murder? Did they think that it was a legitimate case of self-defense?
The exact details of the forensic investigation in the Oscar case are still to be revealed. But the tiniest trace evidence could be critical, as Kim knows from experience.
We solved a case recently where a woman was found deceased in a motel room, and there was not a lot of physical evidence there, but there was one eyelash on her sweater. That was then examined, and we were able to recover DNA from that one eyelash that linked to the suspect.
For forensic specialists like Kim and Walter, the Oscar Pistorius case is unique. Forensic evidence is usually used to assess whether an individual did or did not commit a crime. In Oscar's case, he admits to the killing of Reeva. There is no need to prove that he was responsible for her death. So in this instance, exactly how can the forensics help us? Oscar claims the killing of Reeva was a case of mistaken identity. He thought he was firing on an intruder. The prosecution say neighbors heard loud arguments, a woman scream, gunshots, more screaming, more gunshots, then silence. Just what and who can we believe? What would you look for if you were doing the forensic investigation?
With most crime scene investigations, what we are trying to establish is, one, did a crime occur, and identify any suspects that were involved. Many times we do not have a suspect that is present that is saying something did occur, and we need to determine the motive behind that crime.
What are the key forensic questions we should be asking in the Oscar case?
The blood spatter can indicate Reeva's position when she was shot, which was important. What was she doing in the bathroom?
The physical evidence, the ballistics, the trajectory, blood stain, spatter that was present at the scene, and also the cellular data that could be discovered on these cell phones is going to be very, very telling into the motive of the crime.
So, apart from working out what happened at a crime scene, Walter and Kim are also called upon to assess whether forensics can reveal people's motives. In their own different way, this is exactly what Stan and Paul are trying to do.
Reeva made herself into that supermodel.
And so did Oscar.
And Oscar made himself into the sports superstar. And that's a complex process. It takes a lot of energy, a lot of luck, and it's a human process that we have to get inside to know what actually made sense in that room and that night. You know, the forensics are going to be very important, but what was the dynamic between the actor and the victim?
To do it in drama, you'd almost have to do it from two different angles. One version is he did it, as the prosecutors say, and the other version is what the defense lawyers would say.
Dark room.
Yeah.
Darkened bed, and yet he can find the gun in the dark without saying anything to the supposedly present girl, without rattling the gun in the drawer when he's grabbing it in the dark.
So it was under the bed.
Under the bed. All right, well, that's pretty good. You can't see the girl in the bed, but you can find a gun under it in the dark.
And without waking her to warn her that there's an
Exactly so, or attempting to, had she been there.
Yeah.
That part gets to me a little bit in terms of what's going on here.
Sometimes when you look at these things, it's not what they did, it's what they didn't do.
Stan and Paul are a powerful duo with decades of experience here in Hollywood making drama which has enthralled the world. There's a third partner in this formidable writing team. In nearby Toluca Lake, Emmy Award-winning playwright Randy Rigel met us to identify the main themes in their forthcoming film. How important do you think the forensics will be in the drama that you're going to be writing about this?
Well, depending how we structure it, you could make it very dramatic, because you could have the reveal right at a critical moment that completely, in other words, have the defense going really well, and then the evidence comes out that he was standing when he lied, and then you'd have the defense, how come you lied to me? Because I had to. There's something else we didn't know about. But it goes to, you can make, I mean, this is the stuff of which, NCI or Law and Order, that's how you dramatize it.
Everybody wants to see that door, and everybody wants to see the cell phone records. Question is, will those cell phone records and that door prove anything?
The ballistics will not lie. He cannot get out of if he lied, this is why I don't think he lied about that. That if he lied about being on a stunts that he really had, because then that would go to the fact that he had time to put it on and think about it. If he's lying once about one thing, that means he could have lied other things. The other thing is can ballistics tell you which bullet hit the person first?
Yeah, to a certain extent, because as the first bullet hits, it's going to move you in one direction, and eventually you're going to be going down. So
and then the next bullet would reflect what new position you were in.
Right.
That's important because, see, if the first bullet hit her temple, then she's dead. But if the first bullet hit her somewhere else, then she would have cried out in pain or screamed, and he would have heard that. And he wouldn't have fired the other bullets. Unless he just went, blah, 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 blah. I mean, and did Oscar's statement, in order to get bail, he had to swear out an affidavit. And does he in that, and I think that's part of the public record now, does it anywhere, does he describe how quickly he pulled off all 4 rounds? Because the witnesses are saying, I think you brought this point, that they heard it, then they heard a scream, then he shot some more. If that were the truth, then he's in trouble.
A close examination of the physical evidence, if it hasn't been contaminated, can be like a time machine. It can transport the investigator back to the precise moments the crime was committed.
He shot 4 times. What made him stop? Why would he have only shot 4 rounds if he was so in fear that he had to get his gun and shoot through a door?
For a police officer with decades of experience investigating fatal shootings, it's the key question.
People typically fire as many shots as there are in the gun. It's a panic and an adrenaline rush unlike any other. You have a warped sense of how many shots you actually took.
Ballistics is the key for Walter. Like a committed method actor, he tries to find ways to get inside the minds of the main players at a crime scene. He showed me how.
This is a gun that's similar to the one that Oscar used to shoot Reeva. It's a serious, heavy handgun. It's about 960 grams in your hand. Why did Oscar only shoot 4 rounds when he probably had 10 available?
What do you think made him stop?
Perhaps he thought that he'd defeated the threat. Perhaps after 4 rounds, he really was looking to see where Reeva was. Those are my questions. 70, if you take a shot.
Walter's right. It's only when you hold a gun like the Taurus 9mm that you feel what a truly serious weapon it is. Firing it makes you feel powerful, invulnerable. You feel you could take on anyone. But it's an unforgiving weapon. Use it, and there's no room for mistakes. Next door to the shooting gallery is a gun shop. Here, the staff deal with gun enthusiasts every day, and they have their own questions about how Oscar could shoot Reeva in error.
Why did you fire through a closed door? That's the primary thing in my mind. I think I'd want to ascertain what made the noise before I started firing. Maybe that's just me.
It seems kind of weird that if you were overcome with fear, that your first reaction would be to go towards that and then to fire upon that instead of trying to assess the situation.
What are the key questions that most interest you?
How do you not know where your girlfriend is or who else is in your house? It's your house. You know what's going on in that house. And how do you not know that she's in there? That's the main thing I'd want to know.
Do you think his disability may have had something to do with the way that he approached having a firearm, his reactions?
You know, he's not really disabled. He's a tremendous Olympian, might have, you know, the prosthetic legs, but what a guy, I mean, as far as his exploits. So I don't see that as being a disability.
He should be more clear-headed than that, too. He knows how to perform under intense situations. I mean, look how he performed in the Olympics. Seems kind of odd, right, that a guy that can perform on that large of a stage can't perform in his house under duress.
Walter is trying to relive the precise moments Oscar fired the shots. It's his way of experiencing that fateful moment. It's a painstaking process, and one instance where reality and drama diverge.
We actually call it the CSI effect, where victims or juries feel that they are very informed in the field of forensics and crime scene investigation based on what they watch on TV.
Drama has to be made dramatic. And the tediousness and the methodology of forensics doesn't lend itself to drama.
Some of the concepts, the equipment that we have available to us to process crime scenes is accurate, but where the distortion comes in and the untruth is how quickly a crime scene is worked, how quickly DNA results are given back to the investigators. That is definitely not accurate.
In an hour-long drama, everything is compressed, information is gathered, evidence is gathered, statements are gathered, and then by the end of 60 minutes, you have to find the suspect and apprehend them.
Back in Toluca Lake, the team behind Oscar, Fall of a Titan, are keenly aware they must write their script with absolute accuracy.
Let's just look at the facts and let the facts lead us to whatever conclusion they lead us to.
My first screenwriting teacher said, yes, it's true, but is it believable? if we find the facts, they may not lead to tragedy. They just may lead to some crazy black comedy, a comedy of errors, or just some absurd series of incidents that don't mean anything.
When you're writing fiction, you're generally working from the end backwards. You are giving, the facts are yours. You determine what they are, where they go. Here we're all over the place. It's so neat and clean on our American forensics-based shows. Everybody follows form straight through. These cops trampled through the crime scene. They didn't wear the booties that are supposed to protect from contamination from the outside.
Right.
They didn't collect things. They moved things. They didn't photograph things.
So no chain of evidence.
Any defense lawyer worth his salt is going to go after all of that.
There are differences in class in the Pistorius case, and it was similar to the racial issues that brought up in the OJ case between the class and the background of the victims and the perpetrators. And I'm dying to see how that is resolved in South Africa.
What's the key question that fascinates you about the Oscar case?
The truth. That's not a question. The truth is what interests me the most. What his intent was, what Reeva's fears were, if any. Just the fact that she had cell phones in the bathroom at that hour is an indication that she was calling somebody or texting somebody. And for what purpose was she doing that?
The writer should be very careful with the circumstances of what occurred before the shooting. Was there a knockout fight between Reeva and Oscar? The public wants that exposed as to what happened behind those doors on that night.
Do we have any kind of credible evidence that they were fighting and on the end of their
No,
relationship?
there's absolutely no evidence.
This could actually go to the defense. I mean, this could be on their side of it, because is it credible to believe after 3 months that they are dating? Why would he want to kill her other than by an accident?
At the end of the day, we have a dead girl on the floor of the toilet.
But it isn't Reeva, the fall of an innocent girl. It's Oscar, the fall of a titan.
That's true.
This is Oscar's
That's
story.
true. It's Oscar's story. I'd love to know, be able to illustrate how she got there, what she was looking for in relationships, not just with Oscar.
This film that you're working on, you've called Oscar, Fall of a Titan.
Yes.
And you talked about it as a Greek tragedy. What did you mean?
Is the tragedy something that is just brought upon you that was unavoidable, or it's a result of your actions? Is this just a case of a guy who, wrong place, wrong time, made the wrong action, or is it a case of, like you were saying, he's very arrogant, he's maybe a little self-destructive? The fall of a titan. Here you have an individual who overcomes such odds, which is an inspiration to all of us. A double amputee who instead of wallowing in his disability, brings himself up, trains, uses this new technology to become an Olympic champion. What an inspiration to all of us. And then to fall like this from grace, to take such a spectacular fall, is such a heartbreaking tragedy for all.
Oscar has told his story of what happened that Valentine's Day in his home in Silverwood's country estate. There's another story still waiting to be told.
Forensic evidence will tell a story parallel to what the victims and witnesses say. And they'll either converge to reach the same conclusion or separate to reach different conclusions. And the finger will point at Oscar, or it'll point away.
Evidence does not lie. People can lie, especially if they know they're going to be caught doing something where they could go to jail or prison for an extended period of time.
It's clear that the story of Oscar Pistorius and the tragic killing of his girlfriend, Reeva Steenkamp, has captured the world's imagination. Crime scene investigators like Walter Saval and Kim Galuzian are using all their experience and scientific skills to shed light on the Oscar mystery. Top scriptwriters like Stan, Paul, and Randy are applying their creative imaginations to understand the motivations of the key players. Perhaps it will be through a combination of science and art that the truth finally emerges.